Fox team coverage monitoring Hermine. Senior meteorologist Janice Dean standing by in the Fox Extreme Weather Center, where we are expecting new information on the strength of the storm in the next hour. Caroline Shively monitoring the situation in North Carolina. But first, a check on the aftermath along the Gulf Coast of Florida. Steve Harrigan live there for us, right in the thick of it. Hi, Steve. How's it going tonight?
Florida, the storm is gone, but many Floridians still in trouble. When it hit on 1:30 in the morning on Friday, the Florida coast, it brought winds of 80 miles an hour, but it brought a lot of water with it, too. That water is still here.
Also use numerous mobile devices to send and to read email on that personal domain.
In a typical scene in the small town in Florida, about 40 miles north of Tampa, we're using our drone camera there.
Spirit of charity and unity that binds us all together, and we are bound together, and I see that today. This has been an amazing day for me. The African American faith community has been
denied access to the president. But again, I don't want to sort of overstate it. It is sort of par for the course if you've ever been here.
Complain now, electric power. 150,000 people across Florida still without electricity, many without running water as well. So we've seen some real extensive damage to homes and to businesses. Some of that damage so bad people are not coming back yet to those homes. We've seen a beefed up police presence as well on the streets trying to prevent looting, but also because people are not going back to these homes yet without any running water, without electricity. We could see 2 weeks of cleanup before the power is back on here after this storm. Laura, back to you.
All right, Steve Harrigan for us in Florida. Thank you so much. And we'll take you to North Carolina at the bottom of the hour. And on top of all of this, a magnitude 5.6 earthquake hitting the Midwest, and folks in neighboring states even reported feeling it. Now, the quake was centered in northern Oklahoma, where it left a number of buildings damaged and at least one person injured. Senior meteorologist.
The world's two largest economies to that joint plan to reduce greenhouse gases, a very big day, an historic day here at the G20. Now, the president, with an obvious eye on the upcoming election, did talk.
Very shallow, and that's one of the reasons why we've over 2 million people felt this quake. And as you can see, over the last 10 days, we've had several quakes, but this quake is a record breaker. It ties the most powerful quake that they have had in Oklahoma right here. So Prague was back in 2011, and now we also have a 5.6 as of this morning. And worth noting, over the last 5 years, we have had a tremendous uptick in earthquakes in this state. All right, let's talk about Hermine. We are expecting a new advisory at 8 p.m. to give us the coordinates on the storm and how strong the winds are. Tropical storm warnings in extent from the North Carolina coastline all the way up towards New England. And that means we could see tropical storm force winds within the next 36 hours for all of these vulnerable areas. Wind gusts. Now, the problem is this storm is going to hang out off the coastline for days, and we don't quite know exactly where it's going to go. Will it come closer to the coast? Will it be more offshore? Will it move a little bit more to the north and east? A very difficult forecast. The message here, if you live anywhere from North Carolina up to Maine, you need to be watching the path of the storm because, again, at the very least, we're going to have tropical storm force winds throughout the next several days, and the storm surge could be a disaster in some of these areas, including the Long Island Sound. Over 5 feet of storm surge, all of this water piling up for Long Island here as well as Connecticut, and that could be extremely dangerous. Obviously, coastal flooding is going to be a big concern, so you need to know when your high tide is, and you need to know what your storm surge is, what neighborhood you live in, okay? So keep that in mind, and you need to be on alert. You need to be listening to the forecast and your officials in case there are evacuations. And here's why we call this the cone of uncertainty, Laura, because as of 24 hours, we don't quite know what's going to happen with this storm. One of the hardest forecasts problems that we have an area of high pressure. It's a blocking high, and what that is going to do is exactly that, block this system from budging for days. And that means battering waves, coastal beach erosion, we could see coastal flooding, and that storm surge is going to be a tremendous issue for folks on Long Island and Connecticut. And there's your forecast wave heights. My husband's a surfer. 25 to 30-foot waves is just insane along the coast of Jersey in towards Long Island. So that's another issue. They've closed the beaches in New York. And by the way, New York City are under a tropical storm warning. So they are going to be enforcing all of that and making sure that people know what to do and where to go. And as as I mentioned, a cone of uncertainty, there's a reason why we call it. Look at what happens here. This looks like my 5-year-old took a crayon and just went like this, squiggled, because we don't know what is going to happen to this storm. So anywhere, if you live across the coastline from North Carolina to Maine, you need to be paying very close attention to your local forecasts and your local officials, because one thing is for certain, this storm is going to be with us well into the Labor Day weekend. And, you know, tell your neighbors, too. We're into sort of a holiday mode. They need to be on alert because this is going to be something we're going to be dealing with, and potentially dangerous, life-threatening situation for the next several days, well into next week. Back to you.
All right, Janice, it's like something we haven't seen in a really long time, and all of those points you make are good ones. I remind people to follow Janice Dean on Twitter as well, because when we can't catch you on TV, at least we can get your updates on that as well.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.